New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Look, Ebro in the morning. No Laura Style. She's on some assignment in Miami. Envision Fest. Get your tickets in Envision Fest.
It's not Envision Fest right now.
Oh, it's not?
No, she's just in Miami. Envision Fest is in the fall.
Yeah, but they're promoting it now. I just got the teaser for it.
Got it. Okay, cool.
And she went down for an Envision Fest thing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, they had like a thing with a bunch of, like a festival thing with a bunch of women, and it was empowerment and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Don't hate on the Envision Fest. Yo, Kriss Schwartz. Give it up for him one time, man. He's got a new book, RuffHouse. Now, if you don't recall, and maybe you're too young, and you should do research after this conversation, RuffHouse Records, Lauryn Hill, the Fugees, Wyclef Jean. Before that, you had Cypress Hill.
Right.
You had Kriss Kross on the label. Cool Keith.
Yep.
I don't remember the Cool Keith. At what
Black
period?
Elvis from Outer Space.
But that wasn't on RuffHouse Columbia, right?
Yeah, it was.
It was?
I don't remember that.
I remember being, it was
no,
the
what
indie
happened,
first?
I tried to get the Dr. Octagon record.
Okay.
I
Oh.
was like, I thought that was like one
Doc
of those
Ock.
genius records ever made. And Sony, I don't know, they didn't think they knew what to do. I said, you don't need to know anything, you just put it out. The right people will buy it.
Now, I would love to hear how, I mean, because then going before RuffHouse, you were in this hip-hop thing all the way back to Schoolie D.
Right.
One of the original gangster rappers. You were his manager.
Yep.
How did you enter the music game, and how did you enter hip-hop at that point?
I left home at 17, joined the Navy. I played guitar. When I got out, my best friend from childhood, we were like massive Kraftwerk fans. Like we saw him doing like Audubon, like in 1974. So we put together like a group of just total devotees to electronic music.
Right.
Like we were the first people. We had a TR-808 when it was just a prototype before people even knew what it was.
And how did you get that?
Through a guy at a store. Through a guy
Here in New York?
No, in Philly.
In Philly.
This is all Philly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you were
So
just...
that was like the beginning of 1981.
So you were just a music fan and electronic music fan, and that started the kind of...
Yeah.
Wow.
How'd you meet Schoolie D?
I answered an ad in a paper for a little independent label in West Philly called Nicetown. The guy, like a one-man operation, he had Bill Cosby live at Graterford Prison. And that was the record that was working. And Schoolie lived 2 blocks up, had come in, talked to him about wanting to put his records out. And I'd known about Schoolie because he had Gangster Boogie was out. And so I went in his office and the stack of records there, it was like Gangster Boogie. I said, what's going on? He goes, yeah, that kid Schoolie came in. He wanted me to put his records out, but I sent him on his way. So I was like, all right, we're doing this Bill Cosby live at Graterford Prison, but you told Schoolie to
beat it.
Yeah. So I
Now, you're how old at this time?
I'm like 20, 21, 22.
Right, so you're listening to young people's music. You know what's going on in the streets, and Bill Cosby is what? And what year is this?
It was a comedy
It's
record.
early
It
80s.
was, it was just a whack comedy record, but this guy was an older guy. He was
Right.
like a former prison
Of
guard.
course, yeah.
So I got the number off his desk. And here's the thing. I was planning on quitting that day to start my own label. I had already had that plan in my brain. So when all this had transpired, so I grabbed Schoolie's number. I called him up, told him who I was. We had a couple mishaps, like getting together, but we finally did, and we put it together, and we started the record label. And
I would love to know, how much money did you have in your pocket at this time? You're working records for you to say, I want to start a label, right? Like that's... At the time, now people say, I want to start a label. I mean, you put music, you could put your music out for distribution on your phone.
But at that time, you had to actually spend money. Like
yeah. Back then, you had to spend money. I had lint. It's a couple pieces of lint.
So how were you going to do this? You were going to just borrow money from family and friends?
No, I mean, you could start with one record. You can get a record, back then, you could get a record pressed up for like $300.
Okay.
And
so you can start. You can be a label. You can go and.
And what about the studio recording part?
If you can hustle, you can make it work.
Yeah.
I did. There was a lot more challenges to starting a label back then than there are now.
Right.
Anybody's label now.
And what brought you to like, I mean, it seems like you were studying culture at this time and paying attention to what was going on in the music business. How did you even get to that point? How did you even get to uncovering how to move in this game?
Trial and error, just learning. Like schooling.
Was it like your dad a musician or mom?
Nah, he was a furniture salesman, and I had 10 kids in my family, and so like for instance, we were getting our records pressed up at a place called Soundmakers in Jersey. And they did everybody, Next Plateau, Sleeping Bag, all the independent labels. So there was like an issue with them, and we couldn't get our records pressed up there anymore, and so I went and found a place called Peter Pan Records. It's a children's record company, but they had their own manufacturing. They didn't do outside clients, so I called them up. I said, look, I told them who I was. I said, I got all these distributors, like, outstanding orders and everything. I went there, and so they pressed up the records for us.
Wow. And so at this time, what was the name of your label? Was it RuffHouse?
No, that was Schoolie D.
That was Schoolie D stuff.
Records, yeah.
So it was just on. It was all around Schoolie D.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
what PSK. What does it mean? Was on.
PSK Gucci time. Yeah.
So how many copies did you sell of PSK?
Probably about 600,000.
So you just kept repressing again and again and again.
Reinvest.
Yeah.
So there was 600,000 singles sold independently. You guys made some actual money.
Well, it was back then. It was like it was $2 wholesale.
I was gonna say $2 a piece.
$2, right?
$2 wholesale.
Yeah, but then you got to get it pressed up. The thing is when manufacturing records, right, and vinyl, it's the money isn't the vinyl, it's the machine that folds the cardboard is what you're really paying for. That's
Really?
yeah.
So it's the packaging
Yeah, but
and the shipping. I'm sure because of the weight.
But if you look at like the 90s, right, CDs, it's the most profitable decade in the history of music because CDs came out 1983. It's Sony and Philips co-venture to create this thing. But they didn't come to fruition till the 90s. Now you had to get CD, right? Whereas a record at the time was like, $1.25, whatever to get made. A CD was 67 cents. That included the jewel box, the actual CD, the 4-color separated gatefold insert, right?
Everything.
All that, and
So you cut the price in half, basically.
$2 to $3 to $4 to manufacture, 67 cents to make, give or take, right? And you're selling them $15.99, $16.99, $17.99. So the profit margins were massive. And plus, in the 90s is really when hip hop just sort of cross-pollinated and dominated the globe.
Well, and also, too, going back to the 90s, we always hear about the number of artists that got jerked over by record labels, contracts, da-da-da. So you're hearing these markup numbers. The artists aren't getting, unless they're somebody, they're not getting these splits, right? They're not seeing this money.
My next book is called Rebels and Poets to Kingpins and Moguls. And the 90s were really the first decade that you actually had artists becoming entrepreneurs and becoming their own businesses. And so,
but it's because of this.
Really, I'll tell you where people got jacked was in the 80s.
Even
the independent
worse.
labels, yeah. The independent labels were. See, if the thing is about the major, where the majors get you is on like international, right? So say you have an artist and has a successful record, right? And you go to renegotiate, and it's going to be like, okay, so for like the German territories, for England, France, we're going to give you X amount of points royalty-wise, right? So they agree to it, you sign it, done. But somebody has to enter that into the accounting program, right? So when you go back and look at international, because over in Europe, at the time during records, it was a compilation culture over there, right? So the majors have like thousands of themed compilations, and you're an artist here.
So you think you can dance volume whatever?
Yeah. So that's where they get you. But again, these are major corporations. There's too many people for a conspiracy to jack somebody. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But you do as a small artist or an independent label have to have the wherewithal and the counsel to be able to track down forensically money
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
And that's how they really get you
Yeah.
because you don't have the resources to go,
Right.
hey, where the fuck is my money?
Yeah, you got.
You can kick and scream all you want, but you gotta.
There was one firm that I knew of, Bert Padell.
Yeah, I know Bert.
Yeah, Bert. That he wrote poetry and he counted money. You know, and he
helped a lot of people get their money. Big, Foxy Brown.
He's the one who schooled me on the whole international thing. He schooled me on it, and he said that's where he goes. You wait and see what we're gonna find, and it's unbelievable. I mean, you know, because we sold a lot of we sold more records internationally than any other label.
You sold RuffHouse ended up selling 120 million records worldwide. Fugees, Cypress Hill, Lauryn, Kriss Kross. Who was the most successful artist for RuffHouse?
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, anybody would have been inclined to say, you know, obviously the Fugees and the solo artists and everything, but you know, she tours like till this day, sells out some of the most exotic places all throughout the world. But then you take a look at Cypress Hill. That's like
it's been so consistent.
It just won't stop.
And those records still sell too.
Yeah.
And you still own those records?
No. We sold the contracts to Sony.
Got it. So Sony owns now.
Yeah.
Do you still own RuffHouse? The name.
I own the name. But my new company is called Rough Nation.
A lot of nations out here. Are you partnered with Live Nation?
Nope. Nope. Well, but we were actually the First Nation because it's the second reincarnation of it.
So First Nation.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the First Nation
Yeah.
peoples.
No, it's but you know it's an awesome time to be back in it. I'll tell you why, because the one thing, if you look at 18% of global music sales are all artists that aren't affiliated with labels. They're just doing their own stuff. Now, that number is kind of unfairly skewed because there's no physical product out there, right? But still, when you think about that, that shows like a landscape with a lot of opportunity.
Right.
And right now, like I'm doing, you know, before I basically was out looking all over the globe for stuff. But, you know, right now I think Philly is really coming to fruition, you know, is being, you know, a lot of good.
Well, there's always, I mean, the music culture of Philly will always incubate great talent. It's a part of the fabric of the city, right? Back to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Gamble and Huff. Cameo
right.
Parkway.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's just in the fabric. So I think that's always going to find its way back.
So this book, RuffHouse, what does it focus on the most? Like, is there just good hip hop stories from all these artists who?
Well, it's actually my personal journey. You know, I grew up in a very abusive home situation, and I left home at 17 to join the service. And then, you know, I tried to make it as an artist first. You know, I tried to be an artist. I got a record deal and all that. But and as I said, it was like my failing as an artist is what was fortuitous for other people. You know, so yeah, it's that story, and you know.
So that includes everything that happened along that way from Schoolie D through Cypress Hill and Kriss Kross.
Yeah.
Any stories about a young Jermaine Dupri in there?
Yeah, a young Jermaine Dupri was a dancer for Houdini, and this is a trivia fact that I'll bet you my own ex-partner in RuffHouse doesn't even know. Jermaine was actually supposed to be the first act on RuffHouse, the very first act.
Really?
Yeah.
As a rapper?
Yeah.
And how did you guys meet? How'd you and Jermaine meet?
Well, after we signed Schoolie to Jive, every major label hired me to promote their records. So I did Eazy-E, NWA, Tone Loc Young. I did all those records.
Promoted them.
Yeah, at a market promotion company. And my partner, Joe Nicolo, produced and mixed a lot of them. So we did some projects for Geffen. 783 which was produced by Muggs, and Silk Times Leather, that was produced by Jermaine.
Silk Times Leather. Wow, he produced that.
Yeah.
I didn't know he produced Silk
Jermaine
Times
did,
Leather.
Yeah.
Oh, Jermaine
Yeah.
did that. Wow.
Yeah, Jermaine did that. So we met Jermaine, and but the thing is, Muggs, we had met obviously 783 with Muggs and everything, but Joey did the Mentarosa.
That was Mellow Man Ace.
Mellow Man
Ace.
Ace.
Yeah,
Mellow
so-
Man Ace is Sen's brother.
Yeah. I know that
Cypress.
for sure.
So Sen told Joey, "You need to check out my brother's group," right? And you know,
You mean Mellow Man Ace told Joe to check out Sen's group, which is the Cypress Hill.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, man, it's
It paid off.
yeah, but it's it's like there's a couple. I could tell you this unequivocally, Cypress Hill and the Fugees, really for that matter, those were artists where I knew when we went. The Fugees had auditioned for every label. We were their last stop, every major and independent label. And they auditioned in David Sonnenberg's office, and we went to see him. And there was like 7 or 8 people in the group at the when they auditioned, right? But Wyclef was kind of like the de facto leader, right? And he, the fact that he was playing, and I didn't know he was from Haiti. I thought he could be from Trinidad, no idea. But he had an acoustic guitar, which is a very important thing in, Caribbean island culture. Acoustic guitar is an important instrument, and he knew how to play it, but he was playing it over loops, right? Which, when you think about it, nobody had ever really done this, right? The only time you ever seen guitars used in hip hop was for like a rock and roll affectation,
right.
like
Walk This Way or something,
all
right?
that stuff, yeah. So literally, like, I think Joey and I knew literally less than a minute after they started playing that this was a group. That
And
we
other
wanted to
labels
sign.
had passed.
Yeah.
Because I could see that. I could see how you would have missed it. I could see how other labels would have been like, yeah, this group.
Well, and also
Wyclef's trying so hard.
Well, and
They're-
also too,
you know,
even their
I could
first
see-
project that you guys put out,
It wasn't good.
Translator Crew,
Yeah.
right? That was a flub. It wasn't until Salam
Yeah.
did the remixes
Right,
and they
you're
found
ab-
their
you're absolutely
their
right.
No,
set-
Blunted on Reality
But-
was not considered heralded as a great album.
But you know
it
what?
was the singles.
But I'll tell you one thing about Blunted on Reality. That record, ready for this? 2.5 years after that record got released, it was still selling 600 to 800 copies a week SoundScan. Right? Now that's like, it never had like a big thing to come out and sell all these records or anything. 2.5 years though, later.
Well, and
it's still-
how far did Ready or Not or The Score come out after that?
Oh, the score wasn't until like 2 years afterwards, I'm pretty sure. It was
So,
a long
but
time.
those
Around 2 years.
remixes, right? The,
The
vocab,
remixes,
Hey Mona
Nappy Head.
It
Lisa.
was a textbook version of how what was known then as artist development, which
Right.
we don't see anymore because now it's all
No, but they developed. They developed over time, and it makes sense
Yeah.
that people would keep the album would keep selling because as the Fugees got more popular, you go back and buy the album, and equally everyone got disappointed. 600 to 800 people every week were going, "I got the Fugees album.
well, that's what
Damn,
that-
why are none of the versions I like on here?
But that's the way I saw it.
You got to buy
I
the maxi single.
Got to get the single."
I figured 600 to 800 people a week are discovering this group.
Yeah.
So it made absolute sense. But they, the Sony, they didn't want to do a second record. They did a show in London, and there was sound problems. And our head of Europe was a guy named Luc Verger. He's French, and he worked out of the Sony office in London. And he called me up because he rode back with them, the Sony execs, in the car back to the hotel the night before after the show. And he said, Chris, they're talking about they're going to drop the Fugees. You must do something. And we didn't let that happen, thank God.
Well, yeah. Do you get a big "I told you so" after the Score sells 10 million copies or whatever it's sold?
No, the big guy, the I told you so was probably after the Miseducation.
Got it.
Right.
When Lauryn wins 7 Grammys and the album's just selling, I mean, every record on it is on fire.
In the book, which is out now, RuffHouse, it says here, RuffHouse reveals the inside story of record companies, recording studios, tour buses, private jets, mansions, radio stations, concert halls at the height of hip hop's '90s heyday. While
I didn't
also,
write that, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just while also uncovering the darker side of the business, from police stations to rehab clinics, courtrooms to prisons. How much of this is fact because it's just on a piece of paper that you didn't write? Is that what the book's really about? You go that far in?
There's some stuff in there, yeah. Like the rehab stuff, a lot of that. Me, namely.
Really?
Yeah. No, I had, I was in and out of rehab for a good part of like almost 20 years.
Really? And how are you? How's your health today?
Good.
And leaning into this rough nation and leaning into the record business, kind of feeling like you're getting the passion back.
You know, it's funny. It never left me. It's just that my passion for, it was the business part of the show business,
Right.
Was, again, I did some consultant work for Sony, like 2009 to 2012, and I was going up to these confabs, and there was like 25 A&R kids in the room. Every single person, every artist that they had, they found online. Every single one. Mm-hmm. And I said, doesn't anybody go and you just find something online and you say text and see who the manager is? I mean, that's it. It's all social media metrics.
Mm-hmm.
We have 6 artists right now, and every single one of them, I didn't look at any of that stuff before we decided to do anything with them. I didn't care,
You wanted to see him perform live.
Yeah, every one. This is Cara DeCarlo.
Hi, Cara.
She's actually a partner in the company, and she is signed just about every artist that we have. But the thing is, I didn't need to know what their social media metrics were.
Right, you just wanted to see the actual artist.
You'll build that stuff later. That's the marketing side.
I want to see them all perform, and that's what mattered.
In the past, how many times have you been in an altercation with artists? How many times have they tried to kick your ass? How many fights have you been in? Because you can't. In the '90s, I have to imagine it was big crazy.
I think Beanie got a little upset with me for a minute.
Philly shit.
Yeah, but nothing really.
But you didn't sign about not signing him or something?
No. What's that?
About signing him? I mean,
No. I put out a Beanie record.
You did?
State Property, yeah.
Wait, at what point?
This was in 2012.
Oh God! Oh, later.
Yeah.
Later.
Got it.
Yeah.
But not in the '90s.
No.
No. But here's the thing. I'll be straight up. I've never given an artist a reason to want to mess with me. I've never.
I'm trying to remember in my mind because generally with every label I can go through who hates their labels.
I don't
remember
I hear
RuffHouse.
Sony.
Sony's got
RuffHouse.
Yeah, no, you'll never. I don't think you'll ever hear RuffHouse. You
got a shout out though from the Jizza.
I've had artists that for whatever reason, unfortunately, we've had to I hate the word, but drop. But they lived on my property for another year and a half. It doesn't. It was never. I never let business get in the way of a friendship. It's.
How the relationship with artists that were just signed straight to Columbia, there was no relationship there. So you were through Columbia, you got your own artists, and then it went through Columbia.
They were signed directly to us.
But then the other ones, the Curiouses, the Nas, the other people who were
the Nas situation is what that was that Search had bought Nas to Columbia. Columbia really they didn't want to sign Nas, so now they owed us a lot of money because you sell a lot of records. They don't have to give you all that money. It's like pipeline revenues. They'll hold on to it for as long as they can because it's like millions of dollars. So it's interest and all that. And so they're like, well, if RuffHouse wants it, that'll be fine, right? So I had a friend of mine who was constantly playing live at the barbecue. And he was saying, you should find this kid Nas. And I thought, for some reason, he was on Wild Pitch. I said, nah, man, he's already signed. It's too fines label. It's never going to happen, And then they call and say, Search is going to come down with this A&R woman named Faith Newman. And if you want to, meet this kid Nas. They came down, met him. I already knew about everything, what he did, So it was an easy thing to do. So we did this deal, all right? So... we put the record out.
Halftime was on RuffHouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
We put out Halftime. We shot the video for like $2,500. The single, it could have been a #1 rap single. I forget, but I gave John Schechter from The Source a tape with like 5 songs on it, and now The Source is telling Columbia that they're going to do all this great stuff for Nas and they're going to blow it up and everything. So what happened was, I think it's because Columbia wanted to be on us in case it failed, we would have eaten it, right?
But now they saw Nas was going to be hot, so they wanted to take it off of RuffHouse and make it their baby.
So what happened was Donnie Einer had a meeting with them, and he apparently he's showing me this fax from Tommy Mottolas, it's like cursing at him and everything. He was like in hot water over this.
A fax.
Yeah.
Shout out to fax machines, man.
Yeah, you remember faxes?
So Mottola wrote it on a piece of paper and shoved it in a machine and sent it to him.
Is this all in the book?
Sent it to him.
Is this all in the book?
Yeah.
The story, because
It's all
this is
there.
a life-changing moment that Nas ends up not being there, right?
Yeah, and every time I'd see him over in Europe all the time on tour and everything, and he would always say, man, I wanted to stay on RuffHouse, and I felt bad. I didn't know if he cared or not, But
Well, that must feel nice though to hear that he won. Because it's so weird. Until you were talking, I didn't even remember in my mind that Halftime had the RuffHouse logo on it, and then it came off.
He gives me a shout out on Surviving the Times.
Oh wow! Oh really? When he's telling his whole story?
Yeah. He's back then RuffHouse, CBS. Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
How it goes.
And I remember, and Jizza mentioned you on labels, but he mentioned everybody, so that wasn't you didn't get a bad one.
Right.
You didn't get it like Tom Silverman.
No. Well,
Tommy
Tommy ain't my motherfucking boy,
boy.
just to start the song.
By the way, Tommy's still out here fucking up. He's fucking up this De La Soul situation right now.
I know.
Really? Well, they're touring, right?
No, they are. They've been touring,
But it's
but
about getting the music
their
out.
music's not available digitally.
Really?
And I don't know what's going on, but Tom Silverman was supposed to get it available digitally, figured out all the paperwork, and him and De La can't come to terms. And they're like, yo, you're still trying to give us the same deal from 1989, bro. Like, what the fuck is wrong
Right,
with
it's
you?
crazy.
Well, because he doesn't realize it's not in 1889. He doesn't know.
Well, he needs to wake the fuck up because De La never made money on records, so it doesn't hurt them. They still tour. They own their
Right.
own
Yeah,
merch.
So
no, I'll tell you what, they were real consistent on the touring.
Yeah.
Real consistent, man. I mean, they did it. It's
Like Cypress was.
Well, see, the thing is, a lot of hip hop artists, because back in like late '80s, early '90s, you had a lot of guys. There was a lot of club promoters, right?
Right.
And these are guys that are, that a lot of them are questionable moral fiber, right? They're not. They jack artists and everything like that, but you could get that 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 banded, wrapped and stacked in a bag, The problem with that is that you're not established with all the venues though. But De La went and did venues and built that up, and so that's
No, so
really
you end up
helped
having
them.
a touring model instead of a
Yeah.
club.
But look, that still rings true today. If you think of the most successful artists out, that are still going right now, they figured out how to tour.
and get venues. And the ones
yeah.
who really struggle to sell tickets are generally the ones who took the club money over and over again.
That was the problem with Beanie.
Yep.
That was the thing with Beanie. I didn't get it at first. And
They want the bag up front. They
said
want the bag-
problem is that he doesn't have a history. Because, I know that, like, in Philly, right, he would sell out, like, the TLA, right, for what it's worth. But I figured, okay, well, I know there's enough Beanie fans in Chicago and everything like that. And the agents are like, he just doesn't have the history to do it.
You got to have a history, that relationship
Yeah.
with the artist. You still talk to Lauryn Hill?
Yes.
How often do you guys get to catch up? Because you guys are pretty close.
Emailed each other about something the night before last.
Would there ever be I don't know if you could orchestrate it, but I ask anybody that had anything to do with the Fugees, some sort of moment where they would come together and perform.
I'm always never say never, and there was times that I thought, this will never happen, and then they do like Dave Chappelle block party. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So you never know. I think it's logistically it could. I think it could happen, but I don't know.
They have to be in the right space.
Yeah, and it's not a thing that gets talked about a lot, And plus, I think the other thing is that I think everybody involved in that, they all have they're pretty busy with their own gigs, and everything.
Yeah, I've heard numbers thrown around to get that together.
Oh,
I've
I'm sure.
heard 10s,
I'm sure the numbers-
20 millions. I've heard some really great numbers. I don't know how busy they are, but those are some big numbers.
Well, she's very busy.
She's very busy.
I gotta tell you, man. I've never seen anybody tour as relentlessly as she does, and she like she doesn't have this label support or anything like that. She's
got her
doing
manager and
she's
her
doing
and-
the whole thing herself.
Yeah.
And she is subsidizing it, doing her, and I don't know many artists that do that. I don't know many artists that won't go out unless somebody is
Making
fronting the
one.
money.
is yeah.
Yeah, no. Lauryn Hill's out here created a great business for herself. Get the book, RuffHouse.
RuffHouse.
Chris Schwartz, it was a pleasure speaking to you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming through.
I got a shout out. OT The Real, Del P, Jay Reezy, McVeigh, and County Boy Doc.
County Boy Doc, and Angel Dawson.
What gang is this you're shouting
You're shouting
at?
again,
This is
County Boy
Rough
Doc and
Nation.
Angel Dust.
It sounds like you're shouting
these are
out gang
artists.
members. I don't know.
No,
I don't
no,
know,
no,
Chris.
no,
What are you
Rough
involved
Nation.
in these days?
Rough
No, I'm
Nation,
kidding.
Rough
I'm
Nation.
kidding.
All good, clean. It's for
I'm kidding,
They
bro.
all have something
family
different to
fun
bring to the
for
table.
your dining and dancing pleasure.
Give it up, Chris Schwartz, man.
Thanks,
Get the
man.
book, Rough House.
Thank you.